ABC4's Good Morning Utah in HD.
Governor Mitt Romney received 30,015 votes. Senator Rick Santorum received 30,007 votes.
That's Darcy.
All right, there it is. A tough campaign in Iowa. It is all over this morning. They are closing up those town hall meetings, and boy, was it a squeaker last night. Mitt Romney basically ignoring Iowa for a while, but then realized, hey, I might be able to take this. So he went in, spent some time, and ends up winning by 8 votes. Really amazing, and obviously what happens to Romney and what happens to the rest of the candidates, we're going to talk about right now with our illustrious panel of GOP. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Yeah, so let's start with you since you're right here next to me.
Yes.
8 votes. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah, I think it was pretty shocking, but I think the bigger story of this is, where did Santorum come from?
I think shoe leather and rubber on his truck.
Most likely,
Yeah.
I would have to agree. So that's really the question. It was such a toss-up. I don't know that Mitt Romney can be excited, but at the same time, to be this close to somebody as crazy as Santorum, I think is kind of insane. Personally.
You think he's crazy, Santorum?
Oh, absolutely.
He comes off as a Boy Scout to me with his little sweater vests.
His sweater vests are pretty adorable, but when you listen to his rhetoric, I think it's pretty scary. I mean, the guy is as far as I'm concerned, he's wishing for World War III any moment now. So I'm really concerned for his rhetoric, and I'd rather not see him be the nominee.
He does tend to focus on national policy, international policies. What do you think about, obviously Mitt, first of all, but Newt just sort of dropping off the map?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, in all reality, I don't think anybody won last night. I mean, the vote was completely split out, down the line.
Yeah.
I mean, 8 votes. I mean, let's get back to, the real important point here today, is the fact that 8 votes is nothing. This is really indicative to the United States that we need to get out and vote. I mean, we're going to start talking about the average age of voters now. We're going to be talking about all sorts of different things today. I mean, Ron Paul pulled a great vote, but his was a very young vote, so that's why he didn't win last night.
Yeah.
As far as the number of votes, 8 votes, we need to get out.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone lost last night.
Well,
Santorum took it, but...
Yeah. Well, this is the caucus system, so it's a whole different thing. It's not like you're going into a booth and pulling a lever or pushing a dot or something like this. This is a very dynamic, interactive process where you can do this and win by 8 votes.
Well, it is, and at caucus meetings, people can be influenced by their neighbors right on the spot, even though the ballot is secret. There's a lot that goes on right in those meetings. Another thing that's significant here, though, I think, is that the sampling, the number of voters in Iowa last night that were represented, still a very small portion.
122,000.
Yeah, in a state of, what are they, 3 or 4 million or more?
Yeah, it's not a big state,
Yeah,
but
still,
they said it was actually a record turnout.
Yeah, but
they were saying that,
but it's still very small.
Sure. And
So
you have to be an activist really to be even involved and get in your car and drive to these places and put your hand up and say, hey, this is what, it's almost a debate, a town hall debate.
Well, this is America, and that's the problem, that right now people would rather vote for their favorite candidate on American Idol or Dancing with the Stars, and they could care less who's president, and, that's the reason why we have the crappy government that we do.
Yeah, well, Dancing with the Stars, you got me there for sure. In any event, so what happens now? Rick Perry, of course, said, "Well, I'm going back to Texas." So I guess he's out.
Well, yeah,
he's going to stumble down the dirt path and go home.
Yeah, he said reassessing his campaign, which in political speech, as Kane led us all to understand, that means he's done. So
right.
I think that's actually wonderful for the American voters. So we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, he was an interesting addition there, but he was in the lead for a while, as he said. There were 7 people who had the lead, including Michelle Bachmann. What happens to Bachmann?
Well, hopefully she actually sees the writing on the wall and she bails it out as well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what the caucus system is all about. It's all about vetting our candidates. And last night, I mean, again, in my opinion, I don't think really anybody won. I think everyone kind of lost. But the bottom tier, so Bachmann, Perry, should probably bow out and then move on to New Hampshire. And then Romney will go and take New Hampshire. But the race will really come up in South Carolina.
Right. What do you think Santorum, as he moves forward to a whole different territory up in New Hampshire, which of course is Romney country again? What does Santorum do? I mean, obviously, he went to 99 town hall meetings, or 99 counties, 330 town hall meetings. Can't do that in New Hampshire.
Well, I think he intends to try. I think one of the difficulties he has is that the airtime has pretty much been bought up by Romney.
Well, his pack anyway.
And, yeah, and also probably Perry. Now, if Perry drops out, then maybe that airtime can become available for Santorum. But without that, he might have a hard time.
He's going to need a little money for
Well, I was
that
just going
airtime.
to say, even if they have that airtime available, the man has no money.
Yeah,
So
no money.
that's going to be a challenge for sure.
All right, well, very interesting. Romney going into New Hampshire with like a 20-point lead, so that looks like kind of a sure deal. So as we move forward, obviously, we'll chat with you guys, and we'll get your opinions as we go along this road to the presidency. Okay, let's really early. Check it out. Good little show there. All right, let's follow the campaign now. Mitt Romney squeezing out this incredibly narrow victory in last night's Republican caucuses in Iowa. 8 votes out of 122,000. And that's really amazing. I'm here with 3 local Republicans, and it is Darcy, Spencer, and Merlyn. Good morning to all of you. Good morning. Merlyn, let's start with you, and just to get your reaction to Mitt Romney pulling this thing off, and really, until recently, didn't spend a lot of time in Iowa.
Well, Romney's staying awfully consistent. He's hanging in there around 25-30%, and the other candidates, they have their ebbs and flows, and
He neither has lost nor gained, really.
right. But we just watched the others just kind of going up and down with their waves.
Right.
Last night, Santorum it was at his high,
Sure.
but Romney's still just the same.
Just about where he's
That's
been.
pretty encouraging if he can do that all the time.
That is true. Spencer, what'd you think about Santorum? I guess it was shoe leather and rubber on the truck.
Well, hey, I mean, 2 weeks ago, we didn't even know this guy's name, really. I mean, so the fact that he came out of nowhere, it just is indicative that this is just the anti-Romney vote that's coming through at the Iowa caucus. This has no relevance to the general race. I mean, definitely, he's going to come out as the winner, so to speak, from last night. However, how's that going to translate to the rest of the caucus races that are coming up? I don't think it's really going to make a difference. So,
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, he doesn't really have the money. He doesn't really have the
No.
organization. I mean, until 2 weeks ago, all he had was a pickup truck.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why he did his whole 99 county, thing. He's not going to be able to do that in New Hampshire or South Carolina.
No,
And
not at all.
no money compared to Romney, so...
Right. Darcy, what happened? What happened to Ron Paul?
Ron Paul, we're actually really excited. He placed in the top 3, and that's what's most important. Looking at the top 3, that's who's going to determine who moves on from the nomination from there. Ron Paul, I'll be honest, I was hoping he'd do better than 3rd, but I am still very excited and very hopeful because I think moving forward, he's the kind of candidate where once people come on board the Ron Paul train, they don't leave.
Yeah.
And that's the difference than most
He has
candidates.
some very special followers, if you will, as the radio talk shows call them, special.
Sure, the radio talk shows say a lot of things, but truth be told, Ron Paul stands for liberty, and that actually resonates with a lot of people. Most Americans are sick of these wars. Most Americans actually want to promote liberty. Most Americans don't want, basically government in their bedroom, and that's why I think ultimately somebody like Rick Santorum is so scary because he's out there fear-mongering, trying to get America to call war against Iran, and then he's somebody who's very focused and he could care less for our civil liberties. He wants to tell people and control their behavior, and I think he's so outside of the norm that, once again, I think the media is propping him up right now for the big fall, the rise and fall, just like so many of these GOP candidates. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to Mitt Romney and Ron Paul.
Yeah. All right. Well, he does have quite a collection of sweater vests, though.
Absolutely.
I will tell you that. All right, Darcy, Spencer, Merlyn, thank you for joining us here this morning. And we'll be chatting with you, I think, in the next hour. All right, boys, your vote. There it is.
15 votes. Senator Rick Santorum received 30,007 votes.
And, of course, number 3 was Ron Paul. But in any event, as you probably know by now, as you're waking up, Mitt Romney takes the day in Iowa, barely squeaking out a victory by 8 votes over Rick Santorum. And where did Rick Santorum come from? Like we were saying, a lot of shoe leather and a lot of miles on his pickup truck because that's how he got around. I'm here with Darcy, Spencer, and Merlyn, and we're going to try and pick up here this morning. Good morning. All of you members of local GOP party. Darcy, let's start with you. And I know that you're a big Ron Paul supporter. How did Ron do last night? It seemed like a 3-way tie, and a lot of people are wondering, is this the high water mark, or is this the beginning of something else?
This is the beginning of something else. I mean, what people have to understand is this is an incredible finish for Ron Paul. He is somebody who's completely ignored by the media. He doesn't have...
They think he's kooky.
Well, of course...
We.
Well, like, truth be told, I feel like in a lot of ways, in Washington, D.C., when people get back there, you have the right and the left unite to create the Purple Party, which want to control people's behavior. You have, of course, Democrats want to control people's wallets, and then you have Republicans who want to control, people's bedrooms. And so at the end of the day, Ron Paul is pro-liberty. Yeah. He wants to stand up and allow people to make decisions in their lives. Basically, he wants to legalize adulthood. Let people be adults.
That's used a lot in Washington these days. We need an adult conversation. They're acting like kids.
Absolutely. And so at the end of the day, his message of liberty resonates with Americans. His foreign policy, we've had enough. These unconstitutional wars since World War II have largely upset America as a whole. And truth be told, 40% of Americans are independents. And that's what he attracts, is independents and people who are for liberty. And in fact, there's so many people who are upset about Obama's promises about, going out and not continuing these unconstitutional wars. They're fed up. And at the end of the day, that resonates with so many people, and I think a lot of people are coming on board to his message.
All right, Spencer, what do you think about the Romney victory last night? And really just a squeaker, an amazing, out of 122,000 people who cast their ballots, 8 votes.
Yeah, last night he stayed about par what he did in 2008. And now he's going on to New Hampshire. Again, like I said before, I don't think anybody really won last night. I mean, Santorum obviously came out of nowhere.
Sure.
But Romney's going into New Hampshire. He's at 44% or 46% right now. He's going to go and probably take that as well, and then go on to South Carolina, which will be the important race. Something important to talk about. Iowa. In 2008, McCain came in 4th in Iowa. Okay, so last night really doesn't have that clear of an indication of what's really going to happen. So yeah, Ron Paul is in the race. Mitt Romney, he's got the momentum, and he'll have more momentum after New Hampshire. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can get the vote out, who they can get to show up at the caucus in New Hampshire and South Carolina.
Yeah, things are shifting as we speak. Merlyn, let's talk about Newt Gingrich. He was the top of the heap 2 weeks ago, and suddenly $3.5 million worth of negative ads from Mitt Romney's Political Action Committee, and that's where the money came from. And suddenly he's number 4. What does Newt do from here?
I think Newt may have to panic.
It's panic time.
It's a very difficult. He sort of slipped into this race anyway. It was like he just kind of put his feet in the water. He thought he could do it, and then he had some very good results with the debates. He's a very good debater, very knowledgeable person. I personally think he's still got the right ideas, but having the capability to do the right thing in government does not necessarily equate to being able to run the campaign. And he's really struggling with that.
Yeah, there's a difference between legislating and campaigning, and obviously the Republican Party wants the person who can beat Barack Obama, so it appears as if Mitt Romney is on his way to being that person, according to the establishment. Listen, you guys hang out, and we'll talk to you again about this. Darcy, Spencer, Merlyn, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it was an exciting night in court. All right, good morning, everybody. Chatting with our political experts here as we look at a live picture of your house and mine. That would be the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. President back from vacation, 2 weeks in Hawaii, and he's saying, hey, wait, I can't get a tan out here. Anyway, that's right. Welcome back. It was a tough campaign in Iowa, and Mitt Romney ends up squeezing out an incredibly narrow victory in last night's caucuses. Can you say 8 votes? If you're just waking up, I know you're shaking your head saying, wow, that was close. So, as for what is next for the presidential candidates, let's talk to our panel of experts right here. And they're joining us once again up on the set, the big chair up here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you got it. Let's start on the outside, because we've been starting out here on the inside. Let's talk about, as we move forward, what's happening with, shall we say, Mitt Romney's in good condition. What happens to Santorum? What happens to Gingrich?
Well, I think Santorum's going to make a lot better showing than we thought he might do in New Hampshire and in South Carolina. But he's still going to have a financial problem, I think. I think that.
Doesn't he have a charisma problem too? I mean, I know he did a lot of hard work. He walked all the precincts. He went to 330, town hall meetings. But I mean, he's just, in Iowa, it caught fire because he was there every single day. For the rest of the country, there doesn't seem to be that charisma, that winning quality that people are looking for.
Well, if you're there without charisma, you still don't get any votes. I think he has charisma. He's just been doing it at grassroots and trying to do it with not a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't know if that wins.
Yeah. What do you think as we go forward? Gingrich, for instance.
Well, Gingrich, let's start with like his speech after last night, after Iowa. I mean, each individual candidate had a really interesting speech. Newt was like a little teenager, and he was really upset at like what happened last night.
Yeah,
the
someone took his
turnout.
ball away.
Yeah, I mean, that was embarrassing for him.
Yeah.
Well, as we move on, it is a money game. It's all about how much money these guys are going to have. Santorum, he doesn't have the pull to bring in the money like everybody else.
Sure.
As we go into New Hampshire, Romney's in the lead. Yeah, Santorum is going to have some momentum and will probably pull some of those votes away. I think Paul and Romney are both going to have the best turnout in New Hampshire. And then really it's going to be a bloodbath when we get to South Carolina.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to be really interesting. So Romney's got some momentum. Santorum's got some momentum. And Ron Paul is going to still pull that young vote. It's just undecided on how it's going to turn out.
Yeah. So what about Ron Paul? Okay, he comes in third last night. We're looking at a picture of him. You're a Ron Paul supporter.
Yes.
As you go forward, he does have a very loyal base, and some people would say a little bit quirky base. Not really mainstream kind of guy. In fact, I wanted to ask you about the soundbite that he had the other day on this interview show. He said, so do you see yourself in the White House? And he sat back and said, no, not really.
Well, the thing is about Ron Paul, everybody loves him because he's honest.
He
and
is
he
honest.
actually appeals to more of the American people than anybody else. I mean, what's so funny about a lot of these debates, it's almost like most of the GOP members, it's been like, who can be the biggest warmonger of all gets the prize. The problem is when we move into the general election, and that person has to stand up face to face with Barack Obama and the independents of this nation, they're going to look around and say, oh my gosh, Rick Santorum cannot be the guy.
Yeah.
And so definitely Gingrich is out. I believe this will come down to Mitt Romney and Ron Paul, and I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. I think certainly Mitt Romney has the lead in New Hampshire. Ron Paul will definitely come in second. What's interesting is even Santorum doesn't look to be the third contender. I think actually our own John Huntsman will take that third slot coming up here in New Hampshire. Then we're going to move on into South Carolina. I think it's very much anybody's game, but once again, I believe it's going to go back in between Mitt Romney and Ron Paul. And let's be honest, evangelicals in the South, I think, are still having a little bit of difficulty with Mormons.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And, you know, we're Mormons here in Utah, and I think that we're going to be interested to see where that goes.
What happens to John Huntsman? I mean, first of all, he barely even showed up last night, but he's putting most of his energy into New Hampshire, skipping Iowa, basically. Can he appear?
You know, I mean, he's definitely going to have a great turnout in New Hampshire, no doubt. Will he continue that momentum into South Carolina? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I definitely think John Huntsman is going to be around for a long time, and I definitely think that we're going to be seeing his name here soon, and, you know, we'll just have to see what he decides to do after that.
Well, I mean, Mitt Romney ran last time, of course, lost to John McCain. Perhaps this is just the warm-up act for John Huntsman for the next time around.
Yeah, he's a more deliberate person than to just think he's just in here and losing this race accidentally.
Yeah.
He's getting himself out there.
It's going to be
long-term
interesting.
plans.
It's going to be interesting to watch, but I don't think Santorum has the staying power. I think once again, you have the rise and fall. You have the rise and fall of Trump, and then the same thing followed by Bachmann, then Perry, and then Kane. I'm starting to forget how many of these people have risen and fallen.
Man, I wish Trump was still in it.
I know.
Wouldn't it be great if the Donald was there?
I agree, just the entertainment value. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Santorum is not the guy. The media's pimping him right now. He's the flavor of the week.
Yeah.
And it won't
Rick who?
last.
Yeah.
It won't last.
I know. All right. Well, okay. So thanks for coming in this morning. Big night. Next one, New Hampshire, of course. And there's going to be a debate, actually, in between now and then. And it's going to be right here on ABC with Diane Sawyer and Stephanopoulos. So that'll be interesting as well. See how many people actually show up and how many go back home. Okay, let's